So we rebuild a lot of aftermarket shocks with all the best brands, Radflow, King, Fox, Icon, all of those. And the most common thing that we see, especially with a street-driven vehicle that's driven all year round, the most common thing that we see come through causing the shock to need to be serviced or rebuilt is corrosion. So even though you spent the money and you bought the best shock possible to make your truck perform the way you want it to, it doesn't end there. You have to maintain these things. So, for example, the 3 reasons I see a Tacoma shock come in. Either it's leaking from the shaft and it just needs a rebuild, or they want to change out their spring for a different spring rate, which requires preloading it, backing off the preload spring, moving the coil up, and then you can get the spring seat off the shock, and then you can change out the spring down here. Or they want to just do a quick preload adjustment, maybe to get a little ride height, or just get it to ride a little different, which requires moving the preload adjuster. The problem with that is this preload adjuster, I like this design better, the most anyways. This is a preload adjuster and then like a not a set screw, a lock nut. And this is aluminum and the body is steel. Aluminum, when it corrodes, it swells up like crazy. And what happens is this gets stuck to the body, and whether you're changing the spring, which requires taking preload off of it so you can get this spring seat off, or doing a rebuild, again, taking preload off so you can get the spring seat off and get the coil off, or if you're trying to just do a preload adjustment for a little bit of ride height, requires adjusting this preload adjuster. If this is seized, I have to cut it. So I end up having to put a slice in it and air hammer the thing off, clean up all the rusty threads, get a new preload adjuster. But it doesn't end there. In order to get the new adjuster on, you have to get the end cap off the body. And if this is corroded on, usually you have to torch this like crazy to get it off. So you end up ruining that as well. And you need a new end cap, preload adjuster, plus whatever you were doing, the full rebuild, the new coil, things like that. Also, shock shafts. So on the bottom of a coilover, inside of the coil, the shaft is actually exposed. So keeping the seal saver on there is gonna stop debris, rocks, sand, things like that from smashing into the polished surface of your shock shaft. A lot of high-end shocks, especially for trucks in the rear, leaf springs and stuff, it's just a shock. They don't have boots. The lower shaft is just totally exposed. There isn't even a coil. And the smallest rock chip in one of these shock shafts with a little bit of salt in it and corrosion will cause it to start delaminating, and then it will just destroy the seals and wreak havoc on the inside of the shock and destroy everything in its path and need a full rebuild. So the seal savers are really good for saving money on that end of things. An extreme example of that is Josh ran his 4800 car this year for the first time, and the first race out with his brand new Radflows, he roosted them. He destroyed 2 shafts and obviously had to replace the seals. So on the following race, he ran a set of these things, and although he blew a giant hole in one of them, it still protected the shock. The shafts were clean, no chips, no leaks. A lot of times, the labor and the parts of going that deep into a repair on a Tacoma's shock, it's usually only a few more dollars to just replace the shock altogether. So if you spent the money to get these good shocks on your vehicle, you want to protect them. So the way I use seal savers, I like to obviously clean my coilovers first, and then I spray them down with AMSOIL Mudslinger. AMSOIL Mudslinger is like a thin oil coating that's meant to go on dirt bike plastics and things like that. pre-riding so that when mud gets on them, it just kind of washes off and doesn't stick too bad. But it's a thin, oily coating, which is going to help with corrosion and sealing salt out of the threads of the body of your shock. So I will just totally hose my coilovers down with that. And then I'll make sure these are clean. Velcro them on there real tight. And then it's sealed up and protected until I put a bunch of miles on through some salt or do some off-roading. Then I'll peel this off. I'll power wash my seal saver and my coilover, let it dry, coat it with the AMSOIL or SC1 spray that's very similar, and that protects my coilovers, the threads, and keeps all the bad stuff out of it. So if you spent the money to get good quality shocks on your truck or rock crawler or whatever, even race car, and you want to protect them and make them last as long as possible, make sure you get a set of these things. We have a couple of common sizes that we use here at the shop on the website. You can grab a couple there. But if you're looking for other stuff these guys make, they have a huge lineup for dirt bikes, all sorts of stuff. Go over to Seal Sabers and check it out.